The rivalry between Iran and Saudi Arabia, often described as a hidden proxy war, is one of the most complex and enduring conflicts in the contemporary Middle East. Rooted in centuries-old religious, political, and cultural differences, this rivalry has transcended traditional state-to-state competition, evolving into a multifaceted struggle that plays out through indirect confrontations, proxy battles, and intense geopolitical maneuvering across the region and beyond. Understanding this hidden war requires digging deep into the historical context, religious divides, ideological ambitions, strategic interests, and the broader global power dynamics that fuel the animosity between these two influential nations. At the heart of the Iran-Saudi conflict lies a profound sectarian divide, with Iran predominantly representing Shia Islam, particularly the Twelver branch, while Saudi Arabia is the birthplace and guardian of Sunni Islam's Wahhabi or Salafi tradition. This religious cleavage is not merely theological but deeply intertwined with political identity and power projection in the Middle East. The Sunni-Shia split dates back to the early Islamic period, specifically the disagreement over the rightful successor to Prophet Muhammad, but in the modern era, it has been exploited and magnified by both states to legitimize their regional ambitions and mobilize support at home and abroad. For Saudi Arabia, positioning itself as the leader of the Sunni Muslim world and custodian of Islam's two holiest sites in Mecca and Medina is crucial for its national identity and political legitimacy. Iran, on the other hand, views itself as the protector and advocate of oppressed Shia communities across the Middle East, many of whom face marginalization or persecution in Sunni-majority countries. The 1979 Islamic Revolution in Iran was a watershed moment that transformed the geopolitical landscape of the Middle East and intensified the rivalry. The revolution replaced the pro-Western Shah with a theocratic regime determined to export its revolutionary ideology and challenge the existing regional order, which Saudi Arabia firmly supported. Iran's new leadership sought to inspire Shia populations and political movements across the Arab world, posing a direct ideological and existential threat to Saudi Arabia's monarchical and Sunni-dominated status quo. This ideological challenge made the competition between Iran and Saudi Arabia not only about influence but about the very model of governance and political legitimacy that should prevail in the Middle East. While Saudi Arabia remained closely allied with the United States and Western powers, Iran's increasing estrangement from the West led it to form alternative alliances, most notably with Russia and non-state actors, further polarizing the region. This rivalry quickly evolved from ideological opposition to tangible conflicts fought by proxy forces across several countries. Iran and Saudi Arabia rarely confront each other directly on the battlefield, understanding the catastrophic consequences of a direct war between two heavily armed states. Instead, they support opposing sides in regional conflicts, funding, arming, and politically backing various groups that align with their interests. In Lebanon, Iran's support for Hezbollah has turned the organization into a powerful political and military actor challenging Saudi-backed factions. In Yemen, the Saudi-led coalition's intervention against the Houthi rebels, who receive backing from Iran, has become one of the most brutal proxy wars, causing widespread humanitarian devastation while symbolizing the deep Saudi-Iranian contest for regional dominance. Syria stands as another critical theater where the Iran-Saudi rivalry plays out, though in a more complex and multi-sided conflict involving other global powers. Iran's support for Bashar al-Assad's regime, including providing militia fighters and military advisors, contrasts sharply with Saudi Arabia's backing of various rebel groups seeking to oust Assad. This proxy conflict in Syria not only reflects the sectarian divide but also the broader struggle over regional influence, the future political order, and control of strategic territory. Iraq, too, remains a battleground for this proxy struggle, where Iran has significant influence over Shia militias and political parties, while Saudi Arabia attempts to counterbalance Iranian power through diplomatic efforts and support for Sunni groups. Beyond these battlegrounds, the Iran-Saudi rivalry influences politics and security across the Gulf Cooperation Council, GCC, states, the Levant, North Africa, and even parts of South Asia. Saudi Arabia's efforts to build alliances with other Sunni-majority states and deepen ties with Western powers, especially the United States, are designed to counter Iran's growing regional footprint. Conversely, Iran has forged a network of alliances with non-state actors, Shia militias, and sympathetic governments to create a Shia crescent stretching from Lebanon through Syria and Iraq to Yemen, symbolizing its sphere of influence. This geographic and ideological arc underscores the strategic competition not only for territory but for the hearts and minds of populations across the Middle East. The rivalry is also shaped and complicated by global geopolitical factors. The United States has long been a staunch ally of Saudi Arabia, providing it with military aid, intelligence, and diplomatic support, while also trying to contain Iran through sanctions, diplomatic isolation, and sometimes covert operations. Russia and China, meanwhile, have developed closer ties with Iran, seeking to expand their influence in the Middle East and to challenge American dominance. These global players' involvement often complicates the regional dynamics, sometimes aligning with Saudi or Iranian interests depending on broader strategic calculations. The delicate balance of power in the Persian Gulf, including control over critical waterways like the Strait of Hormuz through which a significant portion of the world's oil supply transits, adds further urgency to the rivalry. Economic competition also plays a role, with both nations heavily reliant on oil exports but with different visions for their economies and regional leadership. Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030 aims to diversify its economy and reduce dependence on oil while positioning the kingdom as a modernizing force in the Arab world. Iran, constrained by sanctions and economic isolation, seeks to leverage its natural resources and strategic position to maintain influence and resist pressure. Energy politics, including fluctuating oil prices and competition in global markets, intersect with the political rivalry, influencing both countries' domestic stability and external policies. Despite years of hostility, there have been intermittent attempts at diplomacy and détente between Tehran and Riyadh, often brokered by regional intermediaries or international powers seeking to reduce the risk of open conflict. These negotiations tend to focus on issues like de-escalation in Yemen or limiting maritime tensions, but they rarely resolve the deeper sectarian, ideological, and geopolitical competition. The cycle of mistrust, accusations of interference in internal affairs, and competing narratives of victimhood and aggression continue to fuel a climate of tension and conflict. The hidden proxy war between Iran and Saudi Arabia thus remains a defining feature of Middle Eastern politics. It is a struggle not just for territory or resources but for identity, legitimacy, and the future direction of the region. Understanding this conflict requires appreciating the layers of history, religion, ideology, and power that underpin it. It also demands recognition of the devastating human costs borne by millions caught in proxy battles, civil wars, and political repression fueled by this rivalry. Until the fundamental issues at the core of the Iran-Saudi competition are addressed, whether through dialogue or shifts in regional and global power dynamics, the hidden war will likely continue shaping the Middle East's turbulent and uncertain future.